I've been thinking a lot about subscriptions lately, and when you think about it, if you don't watch it, they can really add up. I remember subscribing a lot as a kid. Well, not a lot, I guess, to a few things. A couple of comic books, for instance. Our family subscribed to Life magazine. That's how we got the news, along with I think we got a daily paper, the daily local paper, the Bend Bulletin. Hey, this is Tim Patterson. This is Trade Show Guy Monday Morning Coffee for the 19th of October, 2020. Here in the U.S., just a couple of weeks till Election Day. Get your ballot in. This is my ballot right here. I won't show you the thing, but, well, actually, I will show you the ballot. This goes in later today or early in the week. And I'm going to hand deliver it. So, yeah, this is Trade Show Guy Monday Morning Coffee, and you can find me at tradeshowguy.net. A lot of stuff there. Jump to the blog there. Jump to the company site, TradeshowGuyExhibits.com. Jump to the book sites. It's all right there, and as well as the newest and most recent versions of this podcast and video are also embedded there as well. So subscriptions. Back to subscriptions. I got to thinking about how many subscriptions we have. The model has really exploded, I think, in the last 5, 6, 7 years. Microsoft moved from selling software like buying Microsoft Office. I think you can still buy it, but with a subscription model, I pay like $99 a year, and I think 5 people in the house and a couple of friends, my kids, can use it if they want. And you always get the updates. They update it every now and then, so you're paying for the updates, and I kind of understand that. Hootsuite, I think I subscribed to that, $5.99 a month for handling social media and things like that. Of course, I subscribe to a service. I use a service. It's a yearly price for Aweber for all the newsletters and stuff. Of course, we subscribe to a few other things personally. Netflix, $12.99 a month. That price has gone up. I remember the days when it was $7.99 a month for 2 DVDs. You can keep them as long as you want, no late fees. Just send them back and get new ones whenever. Whatever was on your queue. New York Times, $15 a month. I like that for a lot of reasons. I'm kind of torn. I think it's a little high, but I think it's good source. And I got to thinking when the pandemic hit, and we all saw that income would be impacted. We didn't really know exactly how much, how soon. I went through and actually canceled a handful of things that I no longer subscribe to. But here's the thing about subscriptions. Do you subscribe to stuff? Do you ever think about how many you have that you don't even use, and it just keeps dinging your credit card every month, and then you go, oh yeah, I gotta cancel that. Yeah, I actually pay $5 a month, and it hits my credit card every month for Wikipedia. That's a nonprofit charitable contribution. I'm happy to do that because I use Wikipedia all the time. What's another one? There's a local outlet here called SalemReporter.com. They do a great job of covering local news, and it's started by a guy. It's only digital, and it's like $10 a month, and I'll do them for a while. So anyways, there's a few in there, but I've let a lot of subscriptions go. Maybe it's a good time to go through and get rid of the ones you don't need. But as a business model, what do you think? Is that a good one? I noticed that Microsoft went to the subscription thing. Adobe did in the last few years. You used to be able to buy their software. I don't even think you can buy their software like Photoshop or InDesign or Adobe Audition. And I was looking at, with the new Mac I got here last year, what should I do for audio production? I've been using Adobe Audition for years. It's a great little program, but the only way you can get it now is to subscribe. And the only way you can subscribe is to get that particular level of subscription. It's like $21 a month, and I did the math. Okay, $21 a month. I can buy Logic Pro X from Apple, one price only, all updates whenever, and I own that. I can use it as long as I want instead of paying $21 a month just for the access to Adobe Audition. So that was a pretty no-brainer. As far as Photoshop, I stopped using that. I found a program like for $35 or $40 called Photoscape X, which I highly recommend. All right, this week on the Trade Show Guy Monday Morning Coffee, I snared an interview. We've talked to Anders before. Anders Boulanger of the Infotainers, the company Engagify, just to catch up what they're doing with his team and all the shows they used to do in person, a lot of trade shows. They're not doing much of that anymore, of course, because trade shows aren't happening. So what are they doing? Anders is a sharp young guy. I say young because he's probably half my age. But it's always fun to talk to him, and here's how that conversation went. Hey, I want to welcome Anders Boulanger to the Trade Show Guy Monday Morning Coffee, an infotainer, but I understand you've changed that a little bit. Anders, good to see you. How are you doing? It's been a while.
Good. Thanks for having me back, Tim. Yeah, since last on your podcast, the company was called the Infotainers, and we've now rebranded to Engagify. So we're helping companies make their people and their events more engaging. So we still have Infotainers to work trade show booths and generate crowds and leads and everything when that returns. But for now, we've kind of broadened out our ability to help companies, virtual events and also certain trainings that we're offering, engagement training. So
I know that, yeah, that's cool to hear that you're doing that. And I would remember one of the last times we either chatted or exchanged emails or something. I see you posted something on one of your social media outlets. You'd moved into a new building. Pretty excited about that, as I recall. I don't remember the exact date of that. Was that right on the cusp of the whole COVID thing, or was that right after that? I forget.
About a year before. So we've been.
So it's been a while. Okay.
For a little bit, but yeah, it was. We moved here to have some more space, and kind of now we use it really as studio space. Really, right?
So how has that impacted you? The whole pandemic. Obviously, you guys do a lot of live events. Have you made a good shift to doing virtual things, or has it been a struggle? How are your clientele? I'm just curious to get your take on what it took to do whatever you're doing now.
Right. Well, we were like 90% trade shows, right? So we were doing, and so we were really on the tip of the spear, as you were too. Anyone in trade saw it coming a little bit before everyone else, right? And so with everything going by the wayside, we knew, like as a company, we wanted to shift to more of an engagement company in the first place. So this was now gave us the time and the bandwidth to do that. We were actually too busy to consider making that shift. And so, you careful what you wish for. But we made that shift to Engagify, which we really like from a point of view of where the Infotainers was kind of it's all about us. We'll stand there in your booth and, bring in the crowds to let us help make the company more engaging, the offering, the people, everything that you're doing. And so we've taken the learnings of what we've done for years on the trade show floor of stopping passersby and making them want to watch and engage with our presentations and learn about the company and the brand. And then we've kind of codified that and helped companies and coach companies on how to do that for themselves. So now it's more about virtual engagement is the relevant piece that we're kind of talking about. Now, we're talking on Zoom right now, so you kind of get a sense of, we've got a good camera, good sound, good background. There's the kind of the baseline kind of stuff like first do no harm, because there's the people with the virtual backgrounds that look annoying. There's all kinds of bad camera angles, things like that. We can
poor lighting, bad sound. It's all, I've seen it all.
And then on top of that, layer in a sense of performance in online meetings. The idea that if we just sit there and turn our camera on, going from our desk work to actual meeting, we're going to come off flat. The fact that there's so much to choose from, the bar is set so high in terms of stimulation on a device like your computer that people tune out, right? People might be checking some notification on LinkedIn or Facebook in the middle of your meeting. You don't have that same connection that you would have when you were right across from that person. So we need to up our game in terms of how we come across. And so whether that's, how you perform that, how your technology and gear is, and then the content itself, what is the structure of what you're doing so that you can keep people wanting more.
Well, let's talk about the content, because I'm curious how you approach that. I've seen a number of different ways of doing it. Some companies that I talk to that provide it, kind of can it all up, but make it in short little like 2 and 3 or 5 minute or 10-minute snippets or whatever you want to call that, so that you're switching gears very frequently. You're kind of keeping people engaged. Others are doing some live stuff. Others are doing music. Mock videos types of things. I'm curious where you guys land on that. What are your what's in your wheelhouse for those types of things?
Well, I think in terms of us training salespeople to have high impact online meetings, you want to have the dynamics and the contrast at your fingertips, being able to shift and move. So we talk about, when you're sharing a slide, being able to do that, going in and out. Like, I mean, again, this is a podcast and not a Zoomcast so much, but depending if you show video, if we wanted to share a screen and start talking about a process without having to be so cumbersome about it, because a lot of people have to click and go, okay, can you see my screen? Can you do this? We have ways of teaching companies to do this streamlined, whether or not you want to show off, your setup and be able to do camera angles and shifts and different things like that. So we have a variety of tools in our toolbox, but the piece is that people pay attention to change, right? Things that are happening. So whether it's a camera angle, different picture, an animation, movement. Of course, we know that science and kind of the neuroscience of engagement tells us that the number one visually stimulating object, 3D object moving through space, is the human face. So the fact that we just have our cameras on is a good thing, Tim, because that's some of the, sometimes these salespeople have a meeting and people just don't want to turn their camera on, which it makes it tough for communication and taking advantage of that. So the companies out there doing, virtual events, I think the more they mix it up, the better it is in terms of creating engagement. Yeah.
So when you say virtual events, are you doing like a 1 hour thing for a company? Or are you doing a thing that's several hours long for a day and you're a part of it? I've just seen so many different models of that because organizers that do shows that have a lot of attendees, exhibitors, maybe even virtual exhibits, certainly have to bring a lot more than just a single company that's doing something for either their clientele or their employees or salespeople or whatever. There's different focuses on that. Is there one direction you go versus another when it comes to those types of things?
Well, we're really trying to work with our clients to provide what they need. So we kind of have that flexibility. Just to kind of give you an example of kind of what's happening, we've emceed a 2-day, 8-hour-a-day virtual event, which in my opinion was way too long. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's like we're helping. So in the virtual MC piece, to have someone to kind of bring the energy back up after speakers, have that through line. We would also do the same sort of customized infotainment you would do at a trade show. So we might underline some point a speaker made with a magic trick, which is just visually interesting and compelling on its own, so that you're keeping your viewers that are spending a good part of their day with you, paying attention and deepening that connection to the material. And then we've emceed a webinar, which is just like an hour long, and the same kind of thing. We're just kind of being that through line to bring the energy up. And then on the virtual trade show side of things, we've done actually, I guess I should say, a virtual trade show booth. One of our clients made a standalone website that they've been able to promote as their booth. And the company's Veeam Software, and I've worked in their booth for 10 years. And so what's so cool is their trade show booth company made an exact digital replica of their booth. So you can see it. It's exactly how it is. They took a picture of me. I'm standing there wearing my green tie. I'm there too, just like the people who would expect to see me there, because the tradition of being there at these shows for the last so many years. And so they can click on the mountain, go to the marketing counter, get the downloadable assets, enter into a draw, get their free t-shirt. It will be shipped to them, right? So they're really mirroring the same, experience they would have live. And then they can click on me, and then I'm going to be doing a message integrated presentation, which is only probably a minute and a half long or something, but talking about Veeam and whatever company show we're at, the integration, whether it's Microsoft, whether it's VMware, or what have you. So they really did mirror that. So I'm also kind of the voiceover kind of thing, or I appear in the corner as they do a flyby of the booth. So you can say, welcome to the Veeam booth. Here you're going to be able to interact with customer success stories, demos, etc. So that's kind of what I've been working with them on. Then we have other clients who we've been doing their training for the live trade show trainings, right? Like how to work a booth. And they came to us and said, do you have a training for working, virtually? And I was kind of like, wait a second.
Okay, how do we do this?
Okay, so, I did have to kind of go into that a little bit. Like when it first started happening, I started doing secret shopping, just going to these virtual trade shows to see what is this all about? Like, I got to understand this. And what was interesting was a lot of the same issues from a live trade show are also present. that the booth's open and there's people there and you sit around and you're waiting for someone to engage you, right? To say, hey, what's up? Or you ask a question and no one answers. And you're like, okay, I'm out of here. You go to another booth, right? And it's the same thing of people ignoring the people who walk by the booth and may have had a question and stopped and no one bothered to ask them, what how they.
Interesting. Yeah.
So there was that. And then the other piece too was to differentiate those booths in these platforms. There's not a lot you can do, right? Because it's plug and play. In the booths might all look a little different, but basically it's just going to have a different logo on it. You click in it and it's the same standard little people standing around. So the idea of actually differentiating yourself, using that video to be able to really show off who you are and make that compelling is critical, because there's not a lot you can do to be different. So
yeah, and I've seen different platforms. Some show organizers allow you to include a link to your own server, basically your own platform that serves the entire experience. Others, you're like you say, it's a template. You just drop your logo and a few things in there. So there's different ways of looking at that. But you raise some interesting questions about it. I'm just curious if you've done it enough with your clients and they've done enough shows to learn how the engagement is. I talked to someone just recently on the podcast who said that they had done a virtual trade show and they hit it out of the park. Their leads increased like 600 or 700%, which was interesting to me for a fraction of the cost. I'm just curious what kind of things you're hearing from clientele about that, or is there enough data for you to really even share at this point?
You know what? It's all kind of hearsay from my point of view, so I can't give you like industry stats or anything.
Sure.
From my little research, because when we work with companies in a live in-person show, we would roughly know their cost per lead, this kind of thing, what they would expect. So I know the cost per lead is way down. So it's easier to kind of get an ROI out of it, I believe. Right. And some of the attendance of these shows is pretty insane for the virtual attendance. So, but I'm not exactly sure. Like, I think the shows that I talked to, they might have had maybe 30 exhibitors, 40 exhibitors. So it wasn't like big, yeah. You did CES virtually, right? There's like 2,000, I don't know, probably more than that.
Probably 5,000, yeah.
of exhibitors. How, what are the chances that you get clicked on? But from the platforms we've seen, they're getting smarter and smarter about having kind of more metadata with the exhibitors, right? Being able to list so that if people want to look or in the market, which is this product interest piece to it, right? That now there's a grouping of booths they need to visit, as opposed to wandering through a show where everyone is, sometimes they group them in certain areas, right? Making them more searchable in terms of almost like a search engine for the platform, right? And then from the exhibitor side of things, it's fascinating to see what people have looked at, right? They're going to know what they've downloaded, what they've clicked on, where they hung out, because sometimes people are a little cheeky with, or they're kind of coy with what they're really about, right? And you might talk to them, but their actions are going to kind of speak louder than words in a sense from the data that you have from your virtual visitors. So there's some fascinating stuff there. And then there's some people who just think it's a big waste of money. Some voices out there. It's a wild west. Everyone's trying to figure it out. Going back to the company who wanted me to make this training, we did make this training, and it was kind of about the fact that you need to ask first. To engage someone has to make the first move, right? And they've landed there. Do engage them. And then the idea of having a bit of a chat strategy of escalating it to a one-to-one meeting, right? And now you have that ability. The old platforms, you could only chat. And now to be able to actually go, okay, now let's make it into a Zoom meeting-esque kind of thing. Now at least you have this ability to develop a relationship, you know what I mean? And to create next steps and get them in the top of the sales funnel, right? So that's kind of the idea with that training is how can you be more engaging? And then if you get them in a one-to-one meeting, now all this virtual engagement stuff comes into play as well. So
right. It's just fascinating to me that there's really, I think, a lot of opportunity there, and a lot of, as you say, people are just, it's a wild west. That a lot of people haven't got their heads around what really is going on. Some are way ahead of others. Just like, when the internet exploded in the late 90s, some people were way ahead of the others and saw things coming that no one else did for a long time. Like you say, it's a familiar in that sense, but a lot of people are just trying to figure out, what do we do? How do we do it? How much is it going to cost? What'll it take to get there? And I think it's interesting to hear some of the things you're talking about with your clientele, and as well as some of the other folks that I'm talking to about the virtual space. I guess one question I would ask would be, trade shows will come back at some point, live shows. Do you have a sense of when that might be? That'll be my first question. Then I've got a follow up.
I mean, my thing that I've said to other people too is that it's like everyone can say their show is on until the week before, and then they can't. Right. So it's kind of like there's no real, no one knows in that sense. But what we're seeing and my colleagues are seeing is a lot of shows stacking up in June. So that's just kind of seems to be, the companies who put these shows on, for one, they have a great deal of responsibility to make sure no one gets sick at their events and that sort of thing. So, they're not going to take that lightly when they plan to hold that event, and then the other side of the other company. So have to be willing to go as well. Right. So that's just kind of where we kind of see things, shows being moved back to June, or the ones that were already being held in June, say they're on. So that's kind of what we're getting.
It seems a little arbitrary because it's halfway through the year, and I'm just hearing from people, and I've seen surveys that yes, people are expecting the second half of the year, third quarter, maybe even fourth quarter next year, that things will be back to quote unquote normal. Although I don't think it'll be what we had, a year ago. And I guess the other part of the question I would ask you is, now that a lot of people are learning and ramping up on the virtual events, virtual trade shows, virtual exhibits, how will that play a part when live events return? Do you see that being a big part of that? Just what's your take on that?
I think hybrid's here to stay, Tim. So in the way that even before COVID, we were seeing companies have, a portion, they were live streaming their keynotes. They were had that kind of virtual side of it already, which in some ways, when you're already having a live in-person event, you are trying to, it's easier because you're already holding it, and then you're just going to shoot this off and stream it. So now that everything's shifted over to virtual, from the companies I'm talking to, hybrid is going to continue to be a thing. And then it's almost like there's more to do now for, marketing departments, that they got to plan for both, and there might, who knows, in the future, there might be, more of that digital marketing side of things, taking over that, but working closely in touch with the trade show side of things. So again, my one client, they have me doing this stuff, their virtual booth, and it's their intention to still do the virtual booth stuff and the live in-person piece when that comes back. So in that sense, there'll be a lot of moving parts.
Yeah, and I'll leave us with this. I was at a Zoom webinar of some sort yesterday, and one of the comments that has stuck in my mind, it was towards the end of it. One of the presenters said, "Look at doing a virtual, trade show booth as a journey, not a one-time event. Something you can use time and time again and adjust and change things, just like a trade show booth." An exhibit, you're going to change the graphics every year or even more often, depending on new products, new things. You're going to do the same with a virtual exhibit. So I think that, looking at it as a journey, as part of the journey, and it'll also allow people that can't go to the show physically because of scheduling or whatever cost, they can join on a virtual basis.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I like that idea of the journey. It's like, get the structure, get the bones of it, that that's going to be reused again and again and again, and then being able to swap out things to keep it fresh. It's the exact same thing. And the fact that there is scarcity built into that too, Tim, right? That these virtual booths, they only put them up for a short amount of time, right? And have people working them that are on, standing by to answer questions. So that live piece, that it's scarce and in the moment, makes people want to experience it. It makes people.
And I think the other aspect we haven't really talked about, but it's we can maybe leave that for a further conversation, or just follow up on notes in the show notes, is that there's got to be a lot of pre-show marketing that goes into that to drive people to that, to let people know you're going to do that, what they'll find there and all that. That's obviously an aspect which is not really part of this conversation, but I think it's important to keep in mind. If you're doing that, then you got to make sure you find a way to get people there. So.
Yeah, whether that's, teaser videos, social media announcements, advertising, and then the other piece is depending on the platform of this show, do they allow that external link? Because it might just be like, hey, check out our real booth here.
Right. Anders, always good to talk to you. I really appreciate your insight and your time. Thanks again. I appreciate it. We'll do this again sometime soon, and best of luck. Thanks again.
Thanks.
Thanks again to Anders Boulanger of Engagify. Links in the show notes to find him and his great team. They do a good job on everything. Social media, in-person presentations, training, it's all right there. Going to wrap it up with this week's One Good Thing. This came out on John Lennon's birthday. It's called Gimme Some Truth. It's a 2 CD collection of a bunch of great John Lennon stuff, from Instant Karma to Cold Turkey to Working Class Hero to Mind Games, Out the Blue, Whatever Gets You Through the Night, Give Peace a Chance. They've remixed, remastered, whatever you want to call it. And I was listening to the mixes driving around in my car, and I've already heard this thing twice. As a John Lennon and Beatle fan, I'm very impressed. There's some stuff comes through on these mixes which I haven't heard before. And believe me, I've heard this stuff forever, and I thought, this is worth it. This week's One Good Thing, that and voting. Give me some truth at the ballot box. Have yourself a great week, and we'll catch it next time here on Trade Show Guy Monday Morning Coffee.